So the topic of this workshop is Be an Example of Recovery, and our first speaker will be Yolanda.
Hey, Yolanda.
Okay, my name is Yolanda B, and I'm an addict.
Hi, Yolanda.
I'm grateful to be clean, and I'm grateful for this program of Narcotics Anonymous that is helping save my life a day at a time. I'm going to ask y'all to bear with me because this is only my second time.
You good.
All right. I came to Narcotics Anonymous first, and I first got here, it was 2000 and, like 15, no, 10 or something like that, 9 or 10. But I didn't, not that I didn't stay, because I kept coming, I just never got clean. I just kept coming, and then eventually in 2014, I got clean. And last Sunday I celebrated 6 years. I'm grateful for that. Being an example of recovery. I guess in order to understand being an example of recovery, you would have to know some things about when I wasn't in recovery, right? I'm the type that has always been a hothead. I had no patience, no tolerance. I'm still working on the patience and tolerance part though, but I just reacted to life, period. The part that I did participate in, I just reacted to it. I never took time to give myself what the book tells us, that moment to think, get some clarity before you make a bad decision. I never gave myself that moment. So I ended up in a lot of bad situations. I was just talking this morning about how I hadn't started doing all the writing yet, because once I write it down, then I have to really accept. Because in my head, I try to make it seem like that it wasn't that bad. You know what I'm saying? But when you write it down and you get to recalling all of the true evidence of the addiction, the active part of the addiction, I understand that it was bad. It was bad. And my decisions and choices weren't the best of decisions and choices, right? So I had to pay for a lot of consequences behind my actions. I come to Narcotics Anonymous broken, not so much financially, but emotionally and spiritually broken. And that's what made me finally start paying attention to what was going on in those rooms, and start taking those suggestions and start applying them to my life. When I first got here, I thought that I only needed y'all to help me stay clean. Show me how not to use. I ain't that bad. All I need to do is not use. Y'all was fucked up. I just needed not to get high, right? But that's the power of the program, and that's why they keep that cliche, keep coming. That's why it means so much, because the more you keep coming, as the book say, the chapter, more will be revealed, right? And I realized that when I got here, like I said, I thought drugs was my problem, right? And the book tells you, if you pay attention, if you read, when I started reading and paying attention, it tells me that drugs was just a symptom of that disease, right? It's what about those symptoms that are not so much visible, right? Or you think are normal, or those character defects that I thought was just the way, that's just the way I am, right? So I keep coming, and I realize that that's not the way I am. And it made it more evident when I stopped using and when I stayed stopped. It made it more evident that how do you still wind up in those awkward, unmanageable predicaments clean? So now I have nothing to blame it on, right? So this is where the program and the people and the fellowship comes in, because they started showing me that it's more to it than the drugs. Start looking at these steps, right? Start doing things different. we were saying this morning, in the book, everybody, step one always says, everybody always, at least in my area, which is Detroit, Michigan, everybody always quotes the one sentence that says, any clean day is a successful day. That's not what it says. It says, once you begin to change, any clean day is a successful day, right? Because if I'm still, like I was at first, still getting suspended from my job, or on the verge of being fired, or I'm still having conflict within my household, just cause I didn't use it, does that really make it a good day? Really? Not really. But that's when you have to get into the more, get off the surface, as my sponsor say, get off the surface, get into the deep part of it, find out what's really going on. So that's where that's what the steps for. That's why I had to start figuring out about me, cause I didn't know me. And it was the hardest thing I came in here, I had to be 45, 46, to have to ask somebody else, show me how to live. Because in my eyes, hell, I was living. I still was doing trips, I was, all of the things that society looks at as living or being successful or whatever, I was still doing those things, right? But in all honesty, I still didn't know how to live. I had no idea of how to live. So I come in here, start applying these steps to my life. Stop reacting to life and learn how to respond to life, right? Not that all of a sudden life showed up. That was not what happened. Life has always been there. It's just that now I get to participate, be an active participant in my life, right? So coming here, started listening, started applying it. It was a struggle though. I surrendered to the drugs immediately. That was easy. I got that part. They whooped my ass. I got that part of it, right? But surrendering to this program, a whole nother surrender. A whole nother surrender, because the book tells you most addicts resist recovery. Based on the fact that means I gotta do some shit that I probably don't want to do. Or I gotta give up some stuff that I think I need. Or basically it's the whole change. It says everything about me had to change. And I didn't get that concept at first. I did not get that concept until I kept finding myself in those same fucked up predicaments as if I was using, right? Because I thought unmanageability was about my money. I don't know how to manage my money, which was true. It's absolutely true. I had no idea how to manage my money. But by coming, I realized that the unmanageability starts with my thinking, right? I was telling them this morning, I'll think that, okay, I can jack this money off because I get a check next week and I'll put that back in there, right? That's my logical thinking, right? But when I really actually sit down and think about it, that's not logical. You're still in the hole. You could have been here when now you're still trying to get from here to here. So like I'm saying, it starts in my thinking, right? I make what's the word for it? I make irrational decisions or based on my emotions and my feelings at that moment. I don't give myself time to think this is how I was. I don't give myself time to get past that feeling. Most of my decisions are based out of anger or fear, right? Most of my decisions is based out of anger or fear. Now I come around here, I actually ask people. I actually ask for some suggestions. I find people that have been where I've been and ask them so I can get a different response instead of, because I thought I knew everything. I just was the smartest motherfucking addict in the world, right? But That's nowhere near the truth. So I come in here, I'm sorry, I keep saying the same thing, but being an example of recovery, that means I have to change, and it starts changing with my thoughts. Then that, when my thoughts change, then my actions will change, right? Starting first with my family. I have 2 kids. My theory of raising is do what the fuck I say, don't ask no questions, or catch one of these in your mouth, one or the other, right? But that doesn't work. At this time, I had teenagers, a boy and a girl. Can't beat them into doing what I want them to do. And so I had to learn to take on another, because I always thought I don't want to be my kid's friend. That was my main thing. I'm not your friend. I'm the parent. I'm not the friend, right? But at that age, my daughter was 17, 18, and my son was 15. At that age, I had to come into it as take on a different angle. I was still the parent, but I had to be the parent that they could talk to without fear of me retaliating or, I'm getting upset, yelling and screaming. I had to leave a platform open for them to be able to talk to me. And that took a lot of work to get there. But I'm not gonna say I'm completely there, but I'm a whole lot better than when I was when I started it, right? And that's based on this program. It has nothing to do with me. This is everything that I tell you that happens in my life that is good now is based on this program and God. I have nothing to do with it, nothing. This is all what the program offered me. It's what the program offered me. It tells you that any addict can stop using, lose the desire to use, and find a way to live, right? When I got here, I had the first 2 together. I said, and I used to always say, 2 out of 3 ain't bad, right? Because I stopped using and I lost the desire to use, right? But finding this new way to live, that's a struggle. At least for me it was. But I realized that wasn't cute. I needed to find that 3rd way in order to make this complete, in order to reap the complete benefits that the program has to offer. I can't pick and choose what I do. I have to do the whole program and in the order that is written, right? So I learned to be a better parent to my kids based on coming here, getting examples from my predecessors, and just watching and listening, right? So I go applying the things that y'all teaching me here. I start applying them in my home, and it starts to work. Miraculously, I couldn't believe it, but it started to work. So I said, well, maybe they got something to this 12-step program thing. Maybe it's something to it, right? Because the book tells you can apply this program in every area of your life, right? So that's what I've been trying to do, is apply it to every area of my life, right? Started at home, got that kind of together. We'll be moving along. My son is in college. When he was a runaway, he was living in an abandoned condominium, all of that. We got it together. He's in college right now, in his 2nd year in college. My daughter, she did 2 years in the women's facility, and she's been home now 2 years, and she has a job. She went to school, got her certificate for phlebotomist, so she's in school. She's working and she's doing a lot better. The thing about it for me and her is that now we talk instead of me yelling or arguing at her. We actually sit down and have conversations where she can tell me where she's at and I can hear her without being judgmental. That's what I work on too, being judgmental. Because I think everybody should be where I'm at on everything, right? When I ain't nowhere for real, right? So I'm working on that, and that's a part of the program. This is everything about it tells you that everything has to change. Everything. I didn't realize that everything had to change in order to be an example of recovery. You have to change everything, right? So I just started. I'm kind of standoffish, not standoffish so much, but I'm real straightforward. I have a blunt delivery on everything, right? So I had to realize that everybody's not gonna hear me the way that I'm giving it. So I had to work on the way on my delivery, which was what I had to work on at work, right? Because I stayed in trouble at work. I could be right, but it's just the way that I go about delivering it, that one, they're not gonna hear me, and two, I will always wind up with some kind of time off work, right? Involuntary vacation time, right? So I had to work on that, right? I'm Samuel L. Jackson, if y'all know what I mean.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's everything is everything, right? So I had to work on that, on how I talk to people, how I try to get my point across. Again, that's all programmed, because it's definitely not me, right? So I work on making better friendships, building better friendships with people that I work with, my coworkers. They don't have to necessarily be my friends, but we have to get along in this environment. That's what makes the work go easier, makes the workflow a whole lot easier, instead of always being in confrontation. And that's where I was at before I came here. I stayed in confrontation, always looking for something to be mad at, bitch about, and they don't even have to have nothing to do with me. It could be your shit. And I'm boycotting for you. You know what I'm saying? I'm just on a nut, just losing my mind over stuff that had nothing to do with me. Now I've learned to be quiet. Everything that comes in your head does not have to come out your mouth. It just don't. It just don't. And then how do you stand up and fight for somebody that's not fighting for themselves? Sit your ass down. Like they do. They okay with it. So what you gonna be mad for? Right? So that's another, for me, as an example of recovery. Because it's helping me to change who I am, or who I thought I was, or who I don't know, that person that I made up in my head that I don't give a fuck about nobody, don't fucking, that's bullshit. Cause you care. You care. And there's nothing wrong with caring. There's nothing wrong with having empathy for another person or another situation. You don't have to always be the hard one. You know what I'm saying? So another recovering addict told me that she was like, I can see strength in you. You so fake. You think you hard. She not. She had me in tears. Cause she was telling the truth. I'm not that hard person that I tried to put out there. So I had to change that. Had to become more approachable. I had to be, downplay a lot of stuff about that I thought was right. It's not worth all that. It's not. Definitely not worth my job, so shut up. They give you a check. Go in there and do your job. Leave, get your check. Be quiet. So that's what I started doing. And I haven't been suspended from work in 6 years. Thanks to that. Right? So that's to me, that's an example of recovery. Because that's a change, right? It says the active change of ideals and attitudes, right? So, next change was me. I had to learn how to deal with me, which probably should have been first, but when I first got clean, my family was in such a disarray. I had to get that together. But then what I realized is that I can't pour from an empty cup, right? Which is I need y'all to feel me so I can feel them, right? And that's what coming here has helped me do. It has helped me change in so many areas. The funny thing about it is that it's still so many areas that still need changing. the thing about the program, it's like how our key tags are in increments of clean time. The increments of clean time, that's how the program works for me. It's in increments. I came in here thinking, boom, new me. It's all good, right? That's not how it works. It's in increments, right? Little here, little here, little there. The God of my understanding only gives to me what I only benefit from the God of my understanding when he sees that I can handle the little stuff that he has already gave me. That's when my life starts to change and I get added more responsibilities. And to whom much is given, much is required. Right? So therefore, in order for me to keep all of these things, I gotta learn how to maintain. I gotta step up to my responsibilities, right? And that's what I've been doing, is stepping up in my life completely. When I got clean, in our area, we have a 7-minute time limit. It ain't up yet. When I got clean, I thought that God got me clean for me. I thought it was all about me. This is for me to do what I need. Me, me. That's all it was about, right? But I realized as I kept coming that that's not what it's about. God didn't get me clean for me. He got me clean because he has some things he needs me to do, right? There's some. The God of my understanding can foresee way bigger, way further than I can see. So he knew there were some things that were going to come up in my life that I was going to have to be prepared for, right? First one was my daughter going to jail, okay? Got through that pretty good. Next one was my son went crazy and was running wild. And I got through that. And like I said, he's in college now. So I got through that. But I realized that God got me clean because he knew I was going to have to deal with the, I don't know, I guess the worst pain I think I can ever imagine having to feel, right? Day after Thanksgiving, I lost my mother, right? And example of recovery. The old me wouldn't have been nowhere. They would have had to come and find me, right? But for this event, I was there from the very beginning to the very end, right? I was able to have been a good daughter to my mom, right? For 5, almost 6 years, right? My mother was always the mother that stood by you. She didn't care. She had your back through it all, right? She never turned her back on me, nothing. So to be able to do the things that she needed me to do up through those 6 years was like the best thing in the world, right? And I know that God got me clean so I could be ready for this. So I could be able to handle this and do the things that was needed to do to bury my mother. And I was able to do it. Me and my sister walked it out, got it done. The program is what saved me. Because I had seen other people that had lost their parents. And they didn't use it. It's funny that using was not even a thought. It was not even a thought to use anything, right? So I had to feel it. I still feel it, as you can see, still feel it. But I know that it's a process and I'm going to get through it one day at a time. The program tells you, like in our area, they say to best help yourself. I'm messing it up, but it's to get out of yourself, to help somebody else when you're going through something. Get out of yourself, help somebody else, right? So, example of recovery. I was having a bad day at work about a month ago. having a bad day at work, and I was crying and stuff. I drive high low, so I'm up in the air and I'm crying. But one of my coworkers calls me down. Now she lost her dad maybe 2 months before my mom passed, right? And when her dad died, I reached out to her, despite me being because when it happened, I wasn't at work, and they were telling me. I was talking to my friends at work, and they was telling me, well, you know, Whitney lost her dad, yada yada. And I'm like, oh, okay. And they like, you gonna call her? I was like, I don't even fuck with Whitney like that. Why would I call her? You know what I'm saying? But my friend was like, no, I'm gonna give you her number. You can call her. You can call her. What happened was I wound up taking her number. I wound up calling her. I wound up reaching out to her, doing the whole process of her burying her dad, to the point where I even went to the funeral, right? So anyway, when she called me down, and I'm crying, she's like, oh, I didn't know you was crying. She started crying. So we both there boo-hooing like some puppies or something. We both boo-hooing, right? But I thought about it, and I started telling her the things that y'all have been telling me. It's a process, Whitney. You're gonna get through it. But what you gotta do is not use Whitney. Stay clean. You gotta feel this. I started telling her all the things that program had been telling me, right? And in the midst of that, I stopped crying. Right? I stopped crying. And I'm comforting her through it, right? That was my very first example of getting out of self and helping somebody else. At that very moment, if I had never believed in the program, I believed in it right then. Because those cliches, they actually mean something, right? So, I do that, we get through that day. I have to always work on my approach. It's horrible. I keep coming to the program and making these meetings because I honestly have some faith in it. I honestly believe in it. The program is actually my higher power. It does for me what I can't do for myself, right? I just believe that in order to be an example of recovery, I have to implement all these spiritual principles in my life all the time. As my sponsor say, this is an all day, every day event, right? I can't pick and choose which principles I want to use today or who I want to use them with or like, because I'm good for, I don't even fuck with them, so fuck them. I'm good for that. That's my favorite line. But I have to learn to get out of self and still do the right thing for the right reason, even if nobody's looking, right? Like, I can always be good for 2 hours. I can handle 2 hours. I can do that.
2 hours.
Yeah, but to get through the whole day, are you applying the principles? Are you? I'm talking to me though. Do you really believe in this program? Are you really trying to change? Are you trying to really reap all the benefits that the program has to offer? Or are you picking and choosing? Picking and choosing gets me in trouble. Every time, right? So, I try to apply them in every area. I do the best that I can. That's all I can do is the best that I can. But I have to apply myself, right? I can't say I'm doing the best I can. No. You know, I'm an addict. Shit happens. No, that's not true because it's not true because if you really apply yourself, you'll get different outcomes. My favorite thing is if nothing changes, nothing changes. Right? So when I told y'all when I got here I wasn't clean, right? And I didn't get clean for like 3 years after that. But I was coming every day to the meetings and I used to be crying at the meetings like, oh God, it's not working for me. Why is it not working for me? Right? But the book tells you the first thing we do is stop using. Not gonna work if you're gonna continue to use, Yolanda. It just doesn't work that way, right? So when I got here and actually got clean for real, like now I have a friend in a fellowship. He always be like, "You got the real 6 years this time?" I was like, "Yeah," because I faked it, and I thought didn't nobody know, but everybody knew but me. But because of what the program is and the fellowship is, they still let me come. Nobody say nothing. I had one addict to confront me one time. It's like, "You think you fooling people, ain't you? Get your shit together, girl." So, okay, examples of recovery. I'm really new to this. This is only my second time doing this. The program said, is that my time? Oh, good. Hey, I made it. So, in closing, thank y'all so much for coming out to listen to hear me ramble a little bit about my recovery and what I believe the program has to offer. They tell you though, keep coming. Thank y'all.
Now I'll introduce our second speaker, Lee.
My name is Lee and I'm an addict.
Hey.
I thank God that I'm here. I thank God for our traveling mercies. We came up here from Massachusetts. And I'm grateful to be alive. I'm grateful to be clean. And as our literature talks, and thank you for your share. I identify with a lot of stuff that you were talking about. I am like spiritually refreshed and happy to be alive. Mm-hmm. And I'm happy to be in the great state of Georgia. It's my first time here.
All right.
This is an experience. I want to thank the committee for asking me to come share my experience, strength, and hope, for like believing in me and want to help me in my recovery. And really believing in me when I really never really believed in myself. Mm-hmm. I'm going to read a couple of things out of the book. I'm not going to go crazy, just so everybody knows. There's a couple of things that because according to this topic, right, it's being an example of recovery. Recovery is about change, right? And I heard it shared. And I've been through a lot of changes in this process. But I created a lot of unnecessary pain in the course of trying to make these changes. So I'm going to read something. It's out of the fourth step. It kind of smacked me in the face. I don't know if it was my second cycle of the steps or whatever cycle it was, but it smacked me in the mouth because I thought I was really doing some things. And I had a few years clean at the time. I thought I was doing the damn thing. Really what I was doing was not using. And thank you for saying that, because I've said it and people looked at me like I was crazy. I didn't struggle with, when I stopped using drugs, like I stopped using drugs. It wasn't like I stopped and came here and didn't think it wouldn't work and went back out and did any of that other stuff. I never tried to get clean prior to my getting clean, so I never experienced or wanting to be clean. Or I never even wanted to be clean, first of all. The true story. But until right up until the moment that I stopped using, I didn't think that I would ever stop using. So I stopped using drugs. And that was it. It was the change that I struggled with. It was the surrender to this program is what I really struggled with. So this is out of step 4. It's on page 38. and I'm probably gonna get emotional simply because my biggest struggle in life was being honest. So bear with me. Honesty is an essential part of this step. Our years of living a lie must, because a lot of people say there's no must in here, must end. And I read that, there's another, let me, hold on before you move on. And I read that, because that was really,
The truth.
so on page 39 it says, we simply look at our instincts, our desires, our motives, our tendencies, and our compulsive routines that kept us trapped in our addiction. That part of this reading kept me trapped in my addiction clean for years. So I came to Narcotics Anonymous, right? And I used to hear, like, when I would hear people share, I would hear people, you know, they would start off saying what I said. I want to thank whoever for asking me to share my experience, strength and hope, right? But then I would hear people talking about sharing their stories. And that first little sentence that I read in step 4 helped me distinguish my story from my actual experiences. You feel me? My story from my actual experiences. Because I got stories.
Right.
Listen, we come up in here, I heard, you know, and it says it in our literature, we all come in here with a history. Right? We have a history. Part of my history was that I never knew how to tell the truth. I lost my ability to be honest from a very young age. Like the first time I did something and got caught, keyword, and asked, did you do such and such? And my first reaction was, huh? So they would have to repeat, and I would have a chance to come up with a lie. So at this stage, because I got a whole bunch of stuff highlighted, right? But when I read that, years into my process, doing step work, having a sponsor, right? Having some examples of recovery in this process, so I had to learn how to distinguish, because that really made me think. I was like, I've been telling my story for a long time. And the fact that word honesty jumped out at me the way it jumped out at me, right? I've had sponsors. I only had one sponsor in Narcotics Anonymous. Try to follow me here. I've had many sponsors, though, inadvertent sponsors. Judge Judy is one of my sponsors. Right? I love Judge Judy. I watch her faithfully. And Judge Judy has this ability to know when somebody's getting ready to make something up. Right? She'll ask a question, they'll pause for like half a second, and she's like, look, you're getting ready to make up a story. I could tell. I got this sensitive thing going on back here. I could tell. Right? Because the deal is, the truth doesn't have to be remembered.
True.
When you're making up stories, when we're lying, we got to remember, and all right, I'll keep it on me. I'm not going to talk about y'all. When I'm lying, I have to remember the things, right? So when I continue to tell a story, I have to, remember if I've told this story before to whoever's in the room, or if they may have heard this version of the story, right? And am I going to be able to remember
The version.
certain details of that story? When really, I don't have to remember the truth. So I'm gonna break you off with a story, and it's funny. I'm gonna break you off with a story, and me and one of my man that I rode with, we were talking about this. So actually, I'm gonna break you off with the actual experience first,
Okay.
and then I'm gonna tell you the story after. True experience. So I'm still using, and I'm at a party with some grown folk. Right? I was half grown at the time, and I'm at this party, and I guess Chicago was either in the finals for the first or second time, whatever it was. I'm in one apartment with grown folks. Next door, there's a young girl who had some kids. She's on welfare. She got a Section 8 apartment, and she got some young folks in her house.
Okay.
Somewhere along the line, a couple people tried to crash our party. It spilled outside, things are happening, punches are being thrown, blah, blah, blah. All of a sudden, somebody grabs a gun, shots go off, and the guy that I was next to, keep this in mind when I tell you the story, the guy that I was next to got hit in the bum. That's the experience.
Okay.
By the time I got to Narcotics Anonymous, okay, because that happened in my early, I don't know, maybe late 20s, early 30s, that actual experience. I didn't get clean till I was 42 years old.
Okay.
Right? My clean date is 12/22/06.
Okay.
So by the time I got to Narcotics Anonymous
You got that.
and decided I was going to tell that story, it became, I was in the South Bronx with a friend of mine, and he was involved in a gang, and I got down with the gang, and got into this beef with this rival gang, and people were shooting, the guy got his head blown off, yada, yada, yada. That's what it turned into between the time of the actual experience
And
to the story I created. So I try not to, and I'm not always successful at it, but when I'm telling a story, I'm either gonna remove something and add something that sounds better into it, right? Or leave it as it is, but add things on as we go along. So just so you know that story changed many times by the time I got to Narcotics Anonymous. So when I got here, I had little to no experience or ability to be honest. And when it got to the point to where I couldn't even look at myself anymore, with years clean. With years clean. So what I started to do is instead of sharing stories, I actually started sharing my experiences. Because what I really found out was that my actual experiences, because I came in here, I heard a lot of stuff, man. The things I was hearing, I was like, ooh, because I'm watching how people are reacting to, what people are saying, and I'm like, ooh, I gotta come up with something better than that.
right.
I gotta come up with something better than that. I can tell you, right, here's an experience, clean. 90 days clean, I went to my first convention. I'm listening to all these people at the podium, and some people got some real deep, dramatic experiences. Or at least I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt, right? Because I don't really know them. You don't know how somebody moves or what their truths are until you get to know them and you spend time with them. Right? So I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt. So I seen all that and I was like, that's what I want to do that. 3 days later, I was asked to share or I was asked to share at my first meeting. I was 93 days clean. I'm coming off a convention. I'm pumped up. I heard all this stuff, right? So I'm picking.
Ooh wee.
I'm picking.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm going to say this. The meeting that I shared at started out with probably 65, 70 people. I cleared the room. True experience. This ain't a story. True experience. I wiped out, with the exception of probably 7 people, I wiped out the room. Want to know why? Because my story started to become unbelievable. And people really couldn't handle it. And yeah, I was new, and they probably should have supported me and did all of that. I didn't even get discouraged. I was like, ooh, I'm losing them. I got to, I was coming up with more stuff as I was going. Listen, and really, those are the things in regards to my experiences when I talked about the pain, the unnecessary pain that I created for myself in this process. Because I don't know too many people, just to say this, and if there's somebody here that has done that, please, I'd love to meet you. But I haven't met anyone who's coming here just conform to this fellowship and this program as it is and continuing on in their recovery, and their life is like great and wonderful.
Right.
A lot of us got to go through stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
I had to go through stuff. And even when so being an example of recovery, right? First, I had to try to find an example of recovery.
Okay.
Because there's and again, some people get mad when some of us say this, there's a distinct difference between clean time and recovery.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Right?
Say that again.
Yes, it is.
There is a distinct difference between clean time and recovery. And when I first heard that, I didn't understand. You know how I got to the understanding of that? When I was clean and not really recovering.
Yeah.
Because that sounds cool. When people say, ooh, difference between clean time and recovery. Sounded cool. A lot of things sound cool around here. A lot of the cool, slick things that you hear is some misinformation, just so everybody knows. You know what I mean? I'm not even gonna get into all the things that I've heard here that I later found out was like the wrong information. I'm not gonna get into all that, but it's here.
Right.
It's alive and it's well. So I'm new. Like I never even tried to get clean before in my life. I never had any experience with Narcotics Anonymous or any other 12-step fellowship for that matter, and I didn't really know how things worked. So when I come in, listen, there's 2 things I knew for absolute sure when I got to Narcotics Anonymous. A, I was clean. I stopped using drugs. Right? Because that's the first thing we got to do
That's right.
to find recovery. It says it in our literature.
Yes, it does.
Total abstinence is the only way to recover. So I was here and I was clean. But now I got to find, I had no intent. I just wanted to be clean. I came here and I just wanted to go to me. I didn't know how this thing really worked. All I know is I came and I kept hearing people saying, keep coming, just don't use, all that stuff. So I was clean when I got here. I was happy to be clean. I was homeless and clean. I was crazy and clean. And I'm trying to go along with what I'm seeing is going on in the rooms, right? So there's some people that were there that had been clean for long periods of time, and doing things, unspiritual things. Of course, those are the people I gravitated to.
Of course.
Because I didn't know any better.
Of course.
Right? So the people that were actually doing the work and sounding humble, you know, and presenting as grateful addicts and expressing humility and doing all of that were corny. I didn't want to do, that's corny stuff. And I know I'm not ready for that. You know what I mean? So I'm going to roll with those guys.
Yep.
And girls.
Hey,
Hey, listen. Because men get a bad rap around here, and I'm not trying to knock nobody down. That's not my intention. But, you know, men get a bad rap, but there's just as many women as there are. You get where I'm going? Okay. Because I was preyed on. That was part of my actual experience. I was. And not that I knew it was, I didn't know that's what the deal was at the time. I really didn't know. I thought it was kind of cool that this older woman wanted to bring me to a house so she could show me in her dictionary the meaning of anonymity, because I didn't know what it was. I kept asking me, what the hell is that? What word is that and what does it mean? And she overheard me, and I'm not going to get into all that. Long and short of it is. Long and short of it is.
Yeah, we
right? So I'm rolling with the people that are clean. They have clean time. I'm not talking like 30, 60, 90 days like I had. Like one guy had 2 years, another guy had 5. This other person was coming up on a year. Like I put myself around, you know, with them, but they were doing things. I'm gonna give you a minute. It's okay to do whatever you want to do as long as you're willing to pay the price.
Right.
Misinformation. Don't listen to that.
Right.
Don't listen to that. If you're new and you're in this room, don't listen to that.
Yeah.
Because there's a price to pay for everything.
Everything.
The problem is we don't know what it's going to cost. And it might cost somebody's life. So don't listen to that. Please, don't listen to that. So I'm rolling with these guys, right? And I'm at meetings, and I'm hearing the people that are being examples of recovery, like living, breathing, real examples of recovery. I hear them, but I can't listen to them. Because I'm still in self-deceptive mode. I'm still thinking that I could, being clean and going to meetings is going to be good enough. It's going to be good enough.
Yeah. Until it's not.
Until it's not. Until it's not. So now I had asked the gentleman to sponsor me based on, because I got to spend some time with him, so I actually got to see how he really moved. And the other people that I started really hanging out with initially used to share good. They shared I don't know, Gucci. And lived I don't know.
Sharing clean,
The
living
Dollar Tree.
dirty. Right. Sharing clean, living dirty.
So, and as a result of them telling me that doing certain things is okay and this and that, I caused not only myself, I caused a lot of other people a lot of uncomfortability, a lot of pain. I'm not going to take responsibility for anybody using drugs, but some of the females that I started to engage with, used behind it. Then, so I find this guy, and he's a living example, right? And he's trying to get me to pay attention to things, and we started writing steps, and we were doing all of that, and I wrote my steps. I put in the work. I put in this work, though. I put in this work, reading.
Right. Not living.
But I wasn't putting in the work. So because I wasn't putting in the work, I didn't get no real changes. Other than, the only things that were really changing is that I woke up another day clean, and I continued to stay clean. And so on. Right? So I find this guy, and eventually, because really the deal is this: I had to find an example, to follow the example, to set an example for myself, and then to be the example.
That's right.
So the example, right, because I stayed clean, so that was impressive enough for some people. I was getting asked to share all of, and I'm never like, I'm not saying like in all these conventions, but I got asked to share a lot of different groups and H&I and all this stuff, and I started reading literature real early, so I was able, like the one thing that I'm really grateful for Narcotics Anonymous is, like in school, I didn't care to read, I didn't want to like do schoolwork, I came in here and I started reading this. Partly because I wanted to know what I was getting into. And then as I got clean time and I was able to share and quote literature, I stayed in the literature so I can impress you with the fact that I can quote literature. Because I used to go to these conventions and hear all these people quoting literature, and I'm like, ooh. Yeah. So I really, right, I'm exposing myself now. I'm really exposing myself because I did that thinking that solely to impress other people, and I was not impressing any kind of higher power. I wasn't even impressing myself. I didn't even do it to impress myself. I wanted, even though I already fit in, even though my experience already qualified me to be in Narcotics Anonymous, I was still trying to impress people. And listen, and just because I got a little clean time, just so you understand, just because I got a little bit of clean time doesn't exempt me from that, because I found myself, check it out, today, I'm talking about today, I found myself, right, so the people I rolled with, they were going out, they were going to go to, whatever, they were going to go roam around Atlanta, Georgia, right? I wanted to chill here, and I found myself going to, because listen, I came here and I brought an outfit.
That's right.
For this particular
event. That's right.
Okay? This ain't it, just so you know. So I'm here, I'm chilling, I'm da-da-da-da. I lost track of time. I'm saying, oh shoot, I gotta get back upstairs. I gotta, get my iron on. And I found myself up there rushing around and sweating. Because I wanted to come looking fly and try to impress somebody. And really what ended up happening was I stopped myself. I sat down. I picked up my literature. I sat quiet. I said a prayer. And then I pulled out my sweats and threw them on to come downstairs. So I'm not really, I'm not the model. I heard somebody share about this earlier today. I think it was in an open meeting. I'm not the model recovering addict. I'm not that. But what has happened is I started to follow the example of it started with my sponsor. And then I got connected with other men who actually live, and women, that actually live this thing. Not mistake free. Because I thought that I had to somehow become perfect in here. And what I've been willing to accept is I've become perfectly imperfect. Perfectly imperfect. Because going through the step work and process, and in 6 and 7 it talks about humility and all this other stuff, right? I need to be okay with who I am today. And I can worry about whatever changes I need to make me a better person tomorrow. I'm gonna read something else because I write stuff in my book. I've been doing this for years. I wrote it. When I started really making like real spiritual changes in here, I had to stop and write some things down as a reminder as soon as I open my book, right? Because we talked about talking slick or talking flying, living dirty. When I finally came to the conclusion that that's the road I was going down, I wrote this in my book. I addressed it to me. So it says, what you do speaks so loud that we can't hear what you're saying.
Mm.
You heard that?
Mm.
Because I got to a place in my process where I heard people sharing and I seen how they moved after that. So now every time I'm in a room and they get ready to share, I can't hear them. And I had to add myself to that list. Because after a while, people couldn't hear me. And not because they didn't want to hear me. Why would, because this includes, why would I want to pay attention and really listen to somebody share all this good stuff when I know how they really move outside the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous? And I'm not, you know, I don't, because here's the other thing. Here we go. I wrote this down too. The only person I should ever try to be better than is the person I was yesterday. So I had to come to this place that I didn't really like some of the things that I seen, but I didn't want to try to put myself in a place where I thought I was better than that person. I just got into a better place in my recovery process. And to really address some of the things that I was doing that was causing my uncomfortability, my self-deception, my pain, and then other people causing them pain. If I continue, because relapse is not part of my story, if I continued, I'd end up there. So I had to find the example. I found that in my sponsor. The other example I have is the God of my understanding, right? I don't see him, I can't hear him, I don't talk to him. Well, I talk to him, but you know what I mean? But the feelings I get in my spirit helps me to now not just follow the example, to set an example for myself. So as long as I'm setting an example for myself, I can set an example for someone else to follow. And the people that I sponsor and have been sponsored, well, I've only been sponsored by one guy, but who I call my sponsor and who I've done my written work with and my verbal work with, but I've had, I've had other people play a sponsorship role by like really sitting me down and telling me the truth to my face. The hardest thing I've ever had to really confront and deal with and accept has been the truth. I can accept if you want to talk crap about me. I can accept that you think I look funny or sound funny. I can accept a whole lot of things. I've always struggled with accepting the truth for what it is. The truth. That's the hardest thing I've ever had to go through in my recovery process. I've lost jobs. I came in here homeless. I was homeless twice in this process. I came in homeless, and I ended up homeless again in 2 years clean. I lost my mom. I've lost nieces and nephews, cousins, friends, you name it. I've lost them. Either to medical or, to overdoses. But I haven't used. Because I don't really see anything good. Like, it's not going to change it. It's not going to make anything better. It'll change a whole lot of things.
Right.
It won't make anything better.
That's true.
It just won't do it. So I hope that somebody else looks at me as being an example of recovery. I know that I've changed. I don't really need anybody to tell me that, but I know that there's more changes coming. As long as I stay grounded and I keep doing what it, as long as I try to do something better tomorrow than I did today, I'm gonna keep changing. So thank you. That's all I got. My name is Lee.
Thank you.
Let's thank Lee and Yolanda one more time.